You step out into the threshold where indoor air ends and night air begins, and the first drop finds the back of your hand. It is cool, smaller than a grain of rice, and it spreads into a circle that shines under neon. Your skin answers before. Your thoughts do. Tiny receptors, Merkel cells, free nerve endings, send soft messages up the nerves to the quiet maps of touch in your brain. You are not analyzing. You are noticing. The rain says hello in a language your body has always understood. A second drop, then a scatter, arrives like punctuation across your forearms. Temperature shifts a fraction. The air has changed its mixture, more water, less dust, and your nose gathers the difference. The smell that rises when rain meets dry ground is called petrichor, a blend of plant oils and geosmin made by soil bacteria that wait, and, when wet arrives, release scent like a signal. Olfactory neurons carry the news straight to memory centers. The fragrance pulls old doors open. You inhale again and taste a lifted edge in the air. The bright metallic hint people call the smell of a storm. That freshness can ride with trace ozone and charged particles born from high clouds and from drops. Breaking upon dust. Humidity rises, and cilia in your airways sweep more easily. Your throat feels soothed. Rain is not only around you, it is also inside your breath, touching the branching trees of your lungs with a softer hand. Above the street, kanji signs stain the mist with color. On the pavement, those colors stretch into long ribbons. Physics is dressing as magic. Water. On the ground lays a thin mirror. Light arrives, bends at the air-water skin, and some rays bounce back while others dive in. Angles choose the paths. Your eyes collect the result as gleam and halo. A passing bus ruffles the mirror into ripples that remix the picture into bright syllables. You take your first step off the dry tile and let your shoes meet the wet. Sound answers instantly. A soft hush like pages turned in a library. Your body adjusts its balance because friction has changed. Nerves in your ankles and feet report the angle of bone and the stretch of tendon. Muscles negotiate without debate. You feel steady, held by gravity and by your own quiet reflexes. The city seems to lower its voice so you can hear your footsteps. Rain. Gentle for now, beads on your sleeve. Surface tension gathers each droplet into a small dome, a miniature lens that sharpens the world and then releases it when the droplet rolls away. Wind arrives in a mild draft between buildings. You hear it and feel it as it leans on the fine hairs of your skin. Your autonomic nervous system reads the scene as safe. Heart rate eases. The bright edges of the day's alertness soften. You pause beneath an awning and watch people rearrange their paths. Umbrellas, flower-clear domes, dark canopies, patterned with stars, and the sidewalk becomes a slow river of circles. Under every canopy, the acoustics shift. Fabric turns falling. Water into muted thuds. A handle conducts faint vibration to the palm. A laughing pair crosses the street. Laughter is air shaped into bursts by vocal folds and mouth, and even at a distance, its rhythm is legible. The city does its work and hums. The scent deepens as the rain wakes more of the street. Leaves along the curb shine. Dust lifts. The first. Thin sheets of runoff find metal grates, where water organizes into streams that will enter the city's hidden veins. Under your feet is plumbing pipes, curves, reservoirs, an engineered echo of the river systems that shaped this island. Cities evolve by listening to their floods. Tokyo learned to guide water the way a gardener guides vines. You step out again and let the rain meet your forehead. Skin cools by evaporation water, pulling heat as it becomes vapor, and in that small trade your body feels relief. Thermoregulation is an elegant bargain. Blood moves to the skin to share warmth. Vessels widen or narrow as needed. Tonight the air carries some of the work. The rain writes short, cool sentences along your hairline. You answer with a longer, slower breath, a tiny letter sent back. Above, clouds knit a gray ceiling, yet they are not solid. They are congregations of droplets and crystals, born when moist air rose, expanded, and cooled until invisible vapor found tiny seeds, dust, salt, pollen, and turned visible. There, countless microstories unfold. Droplets collide, unite, grow heavy, and fall. Some begin as ice and melt on their way down. Some are liquid from the start. The darkening color above is simply a crowding of water that interrupts the cities. Light dot at the curb, a puddle gathers into a patient mirror. A single drop strikes and throws a crown of water upward, a ring with points like a tiny castle. For an instant, you can see the edges of time. The drop's speed, the height of its fall, and the surface tension beside the crown's brief geometry. Then it returns to gloss, and the mirror resumes its work, holding the upside-down world without comment, impartial and calm. Far below, a train slides into a station. You feel its bass through the pavement. Rain weaves this low note with its own high percussion, the hiss of tire spray, the tick on tin, the soft tap on leaves. Your ears sort these layers without effort. The brainstem handles orientation. The auditory cortex finds patterns. Memory colors sound with feeling. Certain, slow, even noises help the nervous system settle. Parasympathetic pathways unroll like a rug. The room of the body feels larger. You pass a vending machine glowing like a small lighthouse. Water beads on its glass. Inside, cans line up like tiny lanterns. Your reflection wavers among them, elongated by the wet. Optics again, angles and surfaces making a doubled you. The double image comforts you, as if the city agrees to carry part of your outline for a while. You join a small cluster at the crosswalk, and for a moment, everyone moves in shared tempo. The signal changes, and you cross with the group. Humans entrain without thinking. We match the rhythms around us, the pace of companions, the pulse of music, even the lull of rainfall. Brain waves can align to gentle external patterns. Breathing often follows. You notice your inhale lengthen, your exhale deepen. The night feels spacious, like a room with a door ajar. On the other side of that doorway, you sense warmth, light, and a table that waits. By a pocket park, wind shakes water from a cedar, and for a moment, it rains twice, once from the sky, once from the tree. You stand under that second shower and feel a small, undeserved joy. Joy has chemistry. Dopamine flickers, endorphins lift, but its timing feels like grace. Perhaps rain helps because its abundance overwhelms the mind's habit of rehearsing. Inputs arrive so steadily that the mind loosens its grip and finally just perceives. The drizzle thickens into a steady fall. Around you, the city accepts the new tempo. Bicycle wheels draw long whispers along the road. Tires push aside shallow currents at the curb and make a sound like breath released. Somewhere a door chimes as it opens, a small bell against the gentle roar. You feel the pull toward shelter, toward glass that holds warmth on one side and weather on the other, toward steam rising from a cup held in two hands. You pause at the edge of a canopy and listen while the rain composes its many-part song on fabric, metal, leaf, and stone. You do not name the instruments yet. You only feel the beat gather and divide, note into note, hush into hush. The city is playing. You are in the front row, still and awake, while a pattern takes shape at the edge of hearing, one that will lead you softly into the music of the rain. Last lines, you tilt your head and listen. Bright ping, velvet thud, a whisper across leaves. What decides these notes? In the next breath, the city becomes an instrument. You stand very still and let the rain introduce its instruments. First the bright tick on railing and sign, then a soft patter on leaves, then a velvet thud on canvas. Each surface is a drum with its own tension. A drop arrives, spreads, traps, and releases a breath of air your ears hear as a note. You are close enough to notice details your daytime hurry would erase. A single droplet is small, yet its impact is elaborate. The instant it meets a surface, air squeezes out and tiny bubbles can form and burst, making faint clicks. If the surface is shallow water, the drop punches a cavity and throws a crown before the whole collapses. That collapse excites a tone set by surface tension and size. High notes for small features, lower notes for larger ones. Even puddles sing. Listen to the umbrella of a passerby. Thin fabric has its own timbre, the frequencies it prefers to vibrate with. When a droplet taps it, sound travels through ribs into the handle, a tremor against the bones of a hand. An umbrella is not only shelter, it is a portable concert hall, a dome that gathers taps and turns them into softened percussion. Under such a roof, people lower their voices as if in a chapel dot at the gutter, water gathers into a thin stream. Here the rain becomes a whispering rush, a continuous sound made from countless small events. The brain groups those grains into a single texture, like sand between fingers. This steady, broadband noise masks sharper, unpredictable sounds and helps tissue relax. The amygdala, always scanning for sudden change, hears less contrast and eases its guard. You breathe out longer. A bus sighs past, tires shearing a film of water from the road. That hiss is friction made audible, turbulent eddies tearing and fee, rejoining as the wheel rolls. The pitch rises and falls with speed and depth. Behind it, distant thunder folds into the mix like a low cello. Lightning heats air faster than it can move. The air expands and rebounds in waves that march across. The sky, their echoes arriving as a fading chord dot, now focus on a single drop again. Tiny ones drift. Larger ones wobble and flatten as they speed, changing the way they cut the air and the sound they make on arrival. Terminal velocity depends on diameter. So does the note when it strikes. The storm is a choir sorted by size. You pass a tin roof and hear sharp pings, metal rings. Wood rounds the same impact into a warmer knock because its fibers flex and dissipate energy. Material writes the score, weather plays it. Even angle matters. A glancing strike becomes a soft brush, a whispered consonant rather than a full vowel. You begin to predict textures before you hear them, reading surfaces like sheet music. Between two buildings, the rain becomes a string ensemble. Thin rivulets fall from wires, breaking into droplets at regular spacing. As they release, each new drop tugs the thread and sets it quivering. The vibration gives off a faint tone you notice only when you hold still. Hearing spans roughly 20 to 20,000 hertz, yet the ear also estimates patterns beneath that range. What seems like tone may be rhythm. What seems like rhythm may be tone. Inside your ears, tiny hair cells in the cochlea convert waves into electrical whispers. Each is tuned to a narrow band, arranged along a spiral like keys on a piano. Rain sweeps across them with 1,000 gentle fingers. Slow, stable sounds nudge the vagus nerve toward calm. Your heart follows, its variability, settling into an easy sway. Your body begins to entrain to weather. You hold an open palm and catch a few drops. Their impulses travel along skin and bone to your inner hearing, the way a singer hears their voice through the skull. This conductance feels intimate, as if the rain is speaking privately. Outside, the city provides this experiment for anyone patient enough to listen. A cyclist coasts by, chain whispering, spokes brushing air. The clicks from the freewheel have their own tempo, and for a moment, the rain seems to keep time. Your mind loves such phase when patterns align, effort falls. This is partly why people sleep well to rain recordings. The brain rides a stable, gentle pattern and spares itself the cost of prediction. At the corner, a drain gurgles. Air trapped in its throat burps as water passes, notes bubbling up in random. Rhythm. Flow looks chaotic here, but even chaos has statistics. Over time, the sound settles into pinkish noise richer in lows than highs, a spectrum many sleepers prefer because it spreads energy evenly enough to soothe without dulling. The more you attend, the quieter you become. Tonight you widen attention, letting percussive detail and continuous wash share the same room. With awareness spread, self-talk softens. You are not trying to stop thought. You are letting sound braid through it until words lose urgency. The sense of I shrinks to a comfortable chair. Beneath a covered arcade, the ceiling collects droplets into larger beads. When they fall, they strike the floor with heavier syllables. Coalescence. The union of small drops into big ones is an economy of surface. Fewer spheres mean less boundary, and the system prefers thrift. Larger drops carry more kinetic energy. Their voices press deeper into the body. A storefront speaker murmurs a slow song, bass low and kind, treble sweet and filtered. The recorded rain in the track is simpler than the rain around you, but the blend is generous. Reverberation from the glass thickens the sound. Reflections arrive a few milliseconds, late and widen the image. It is the acoustic cousin of halos you will soon see around lights, a spreading that softens edges and invites rest. Close your eyes and the map sharpens. The right ear catches a droplet a fraction before the left. The brainstem triangulates. A railing pings at your 2 o'clock. A leaf hiss spreads along your left. You exist in a living sphere of events. You open your eyes and watch a single drip fall from a sign's lower lip. The drop vanishes into a dark patch at your feet, and a soft note arrives almost simultaneously. Light outruns sound, but at this distance their gap is negligible. A taxi turns the corner, tires whispering, wipers metronoming on the windshield. Each sweep clears a fan of droplets and leaves behind transparent order. Your thoughts imitate. At motion, a pass across the busy field, then clarity until the next pass. Somewhere a kettle sings, a high thread from a nearby cafe, and the rain wraps it in gauze. Soon you will step inside, accept warmth in a cup, and watch the storm from the other side of glass. For now you linger, listening as the rain arranges the last bars of this movement. The city is not only wet, it is tuned. Outside, the rain keeps. Time for your breath. You lift your gaze to the boulevard and see the first long sweep of neon combed across wet pavement. The street becomes instrument and mirror at once, singing and shining together, promising a different kind of music made of light. Last lines, you listen as sound thins and color gathers, a hush before brightness. In the next street, neon will turn the rain into rivers of light. You step toward the glow, ready to hear what your eyes can sing. The rain has been steady for some time now, and the city wears it like a second skin. Every surface seems to hold its own secret sheen. Above you, kanji characters blaze from tall signs, their colors deep and saturated, ruby reds, sapphire blues. Molten golds, each one carrying a small pulse, like the beat of a distant heart. The air between you and them is no longer empty. It is a field of fine droplets, each one a tiny lens, each one bending the light that strikes it. The glow feels softer, more alive, as though the lights are breathing. This is scattering at work. When light meets water suspended in air, it is nudged from its straight path, broken into millions of slightly altered journeys. Some of that light bends toward you, some away, and in the mingling of these redirected paths, you see halos luminous, rings encircling the brightest lamps. It is the same effect that wraps the moon on cold, misty nights, Only here the moon is replaced by 1,000 neon suns. Beneath your feet, the wet pavement has become a second sky. Thin films of water cling to the asphalt, creating a skin smoother. And the stone beneath. Light hits it, and like a polite guest, asks for entry. Some rays are admitted, slipping into the water and bending, a process called refraction, before bouncing back toward you. Others are turned away at the surface, reflecting instantly, crisp and clear. The balance between those two fates decides how sharp or blurred each reflection appears. You step closer to a puddle at the curb. It holds the upturned image of an entire building, the edges quivering as drops fall into it. Each new ripple distorts the picture for a moment, then allows it to settle again. This is refraction meeting interference, a dance of bending and crossing waves. The science is exact, yet the result feels like chance, like someone rearranging. Brushstrokes in an endless painting. When you move, the reflections change with you. Your eyes, two dark apertures set into your face, are constantly adjusting focus. Tiny muscles tug on the lenses inside them, altering curvature to suit the distance of your gaze. Even in the dimness, your pupils widen to collect more light. The wet streets demand this constant adaptation, for the world now exists in two layers, the thing itself and the shimmering echo of it beneath. You pass a shop where a row of lanterns dangles under the eaves. Their warm orange glow spills onto the street and pools in a long ribbon, broken only by the stepping feet of passers-by. In the dry air, that light would have fallen straight and clean, but in the wet, it stretches, pulling toward you like taffy. This is partly the work of diffraction, where waves of light bend around obstacles, in this case, droplets spreading and softening as they go. Some colors seem to travel farther than others. The reds appear to linger, to cling to the edges of puddles, while blues and greens shimmer more sharply before fading. This is dispersion, the splitting of light into its component wavelengths. Rain is both artist and prism, deciding which hues you see most clearly and which become whispers at the periphery. Your breath leaves a faint fog on the air in front of you. Even your own exhale alters the scene. Tiny water droplets in your breath catch the street's light for a heartbeat before disappearing. The city paints on every available canvas, the glass of bus stops, the glistening bark of street trees, the slick curve of a taxi's hood. All are mirrors tonight, each with its own style of showing the world back to itself. You pause by a crosswalk and look down its length. White paint gleams under the lamps, and the black tar between seems deeper than usual, as though you could step into it and vanish. The alternating stripes have taken on new contrast because the wet paint reflects more light than the rough road, creating sharper transitions for your eyes to follow. Your gaze slides along them like notes in a scale. A bicycle passes, tires, sending small fans of water outward. The spray catches the neon glow, and for a moment, each droplet becomes a spark, a bead of molten color. The wheel spins, the sparks scatter, and then they are gone, absorbed into the general shimmer of the street. You think about how quickly light events live and die. Most of what you see is already over by the time it reaches you. Photons arrive, bearing the past in their tiny, immeasurable hands. Somewhere to your left, a large sign blinks in a slow pattern. Its reflection in the pavement blinks too, but not in perfect sync. Ripples and unevenness delay and stretch the mirrored flashes. Your brain reconciles the mismatch without complaint, weaving the two into one sensation. Vision is never just the eyes. It is the mind stitching together fragments into a coherent whole. The air itself seems more visible tonight. Normally transparent, it now reveals its structure under the mist eddies and swirls made visible by the way they bend light. This is similar to what happens when you see heat shimmer above asphalt in summer. Air of different densities bends light differently, turning the invisible into a trembling veil. Here, The temperature differences are small, but the moisture makes them easier to notice. A bus slows to a stop beside you, its windows fogged from the warmth inside. As the doors open, light spills out and meets the wet ground, looming outward. In gentle gradients, the passengers step down, shoes finding small splashes, and each step creates a temporary starburst in the reflection. Then the bus moves on, taking its glow with it, leaving only the cooler tones of the street behind. You begin walking again, and the city continues to offer its layered arc reflections that shift with your every step, halos that shrink and expand. As you pass beneath different lamps, colors that blend in ways they never would in daylight. Your mind, soothed by the repetition and variety, stops naming each effect. You simply let them pass through you, the way rain passes through air. Somewhere ahead, a large puddle catches your attention. It is ringed by light from 3 directions: red from a sign to the west, green from a traffic signal, and gold from a street lamp. The surface is restless with falling drops, and the colors swirl together like liquid glass. No 2 moments are the same. Each ripple rearranges the palette. You stand and watch for longer than you mean to. Eventually, you notice a cafe's reflection in the water, a faint but steady rectangle of warm light, promising shelter. You cannot see the cafe itself from here, only its echo in the puddle. Yet even the echo seems to invite you closer. The water becomes a guide, pointing you toward a place where steam and soft voices wait. You step forward, and the puddle breaks apart under your foot, scattering its image into 100 fragments. Behind you, the reflections you once watched are already repairing themselves, as though they were never disturbed. The street continues its quiet performance for the next passerby. Light, you realize, has its own music. Just as rain does only here, the notes are colors, and the rhythm is written in movement and change. You have been walking inside an endless composition, scored for photons, water, and stone. Last lines, you follow the glow toward the source you glimpsed in the water, wondering what warmth feels like when the rain still sings outside. The door is close now, and soon you will step beneath the umbrella's quiet shelter. You duck beneath the small circle of cloth and ribs, and the world hushes. Above you, rain taps a soft code on the canopy, each beat softened by fabric's give. Under this dome, your breath steps forward and introduces itself. Inhale, exhale. The simplest duet becomes the loudest sound you carry. Umbrellas look simple, but their quiet hides careful engineering. Slender spokes radiate from a hub, distributing force the way a leaf sends veins through its green. Stretchers brace the spokes. Tension holds the whole in a balance, called tensegrity compressed parts, hugged by taut ones. Open, the ribs arc into shallow curves that resist buckling. The fabric turns falling water into beads. Threads are woven tight, and the surface wears hydrophobic molecules that dislike mingling with water. Surface tension gathers each droplet into a near sphere. When beads meet, they merge to reduce boundary and roll along seams before leaping from the rim. When a drop lands, the canopy yields. Energy spreads through threads. Vibrations travel into ribs, and the sound arrives gentled. Materials speak. Different dialects, silk whispers, polyester sighs. Coated nylon gives a brushed consonant. Angle shapes the music's steeper slopes coax quick slides. Shallow ones keep drops lingering in brief staccatos dot at the edge. A boundary layer forms a thin sleeve of slowed air that clings to the fabric. As rain falls across it, shear writes little vortices that peel away. You don't see the curls, but you feel a faint draft stroke your forehead, a cool line tracing the rim as you walk. Your hand settles on the handle. The shaft roots gusts into your arm, and your arm becomes a mast. When wind arrives, the canopy wants to invert. Ribs resist by distributing load, but only if the wind can spill. You tilt a little, and let air slide off the top. That is every day. Aerodynamics learned by feel. Outside the circle, water keeps its schedule. Inside, humidity gathers. You smell your breath mixing with the rain's clean perfume. With less convective loss, warmth pools near your cheeks. Sound slides into the hollow like a bird into a nest. This is refuge, not walls or doors, but a temporary room made of tension and attention. You tilt and watch a bead crawl along a seam. Capillary forces tug it forward, thread by thread. At a junction, it hesitates, grows as others join, then succumbs to gravity. Its path darkens the fabric for a moment. A vanishing handwriting of water dot, why does shelter soothe so deeply? Partly the nervous system's old arithmetic. With even a cloth roof, threats seem fewer, horizons easier to monitor. Environmental. Psychologists call it the prospect refuge pattern. The comfort of seeing out while being held in. Vigilance rests. Calm rises. Listen to the rain here versus the open street. The canopy filters sharp transients, turning many spikes into a steady wash. Pink-leaning noise carries more low energy. Rain under fabric often sits there. Your brain receives this blended input and smooths its rhythms to match. Balance participates. The weight is small but off-center. Proprioceptors in muscle and tendon. Map angles through wrist, elbow, shoulder. Tiny corrections keep the center of mass over your feet. If you share the shelter, movement becomes a duet. Micro-negotiations of tilt, so both shoulders stay dry. Color matters. Dark cloth deepens cave-like calm. Transparent domes invite the sky into your refuge. At night, droplets on a clear umbrella. Turn every lamp into a private constellation. Wind passes again, and the ribs flex instead of snapping. Ribs are built to bend within limits, holding shape while they give. A small click comes when your grip shifts, a metronome aligning step, and breath. Shoulders lower, the jaw unclenches. As stress ebbs, throat muscles soften, enlarging the path for air. The next inhale feels rounder. You angle the canopy to hear the world through its hem. Outside is louder. Inside is a whispering chamber. Exactly. Under the rim, signals mix the slick whisper of tires, bead strings from awnings, the delicate drumming above. You stand in the crossover, where separation and blending balance dot as you walk. Runoff gathers and pours in small waterfalls at intervals. Set by stitching. Their tempo depends on your stride. You time footsteps so a heel lands as a bead releases synchrony found without effort. The handle warms in your palm. Heat flows from skin to material. Moisture adds a cool gloss. Temperature is a conversation motion. Traded between partners. An umbrella is shade in summer, protector from light as well as weather. The same cloth that sheds droplets once blocked ultraviolet noon. Tools become extensions of skin. Tonight this extension feels like a soft shell, carrying gentleness through the storm. At the curb, you lower the canopy until it nearly meets the glistening street. The space narrows. Sound grows intimate. Breath echoes from the cloth and returns to your lips. Cool air from beyond the rim slips under, thin and bright. You hold still to feel the change. Inside's warmth kissing outsides. Freshness. You raise the umbrella and step from the awning into open rain. A few drops tap your cheeks, but most slide off the dome. Your chest answers as if permission has been granted. The nose flares. Diaphragm lowers, ribs widen. Air moves easier when mind is unafraid. Shelter teaches the body to trust the sky. A calf window glows ahead. The thought of warmth does not pull you out of weather. It invites you to carry weather with you, the sound in your ears, the rhythm in your chest. You notice how the air smells brighter, cooler, rinsed clean by falling water. You are not escaping rain. You are learning to walk inside it Without hurry, you tip your face to the rim and listen. Beads collect, grow, and leap like seconds turning. Into minutes, minutes into calm. Your breath lengthens, a tide that does not argue with the shore. When you move, you will move with this tide, toward air that tastes newly washed, where every inhale feels like beginning. Last lines under this. Gentle roof. You hear your own breathing become the weather. Soon you will step into the open and let that breath meet the rain. You lift your chin and open your lungs to the night. The first breath is cool and almost sweet, the kind that makes your shoulders drop without you telling them to. It carries with it the faint metallic sharpness of wet pavement, the green exhale of leaves rinsed clean, and something else, something that makes you feel, in a way you can't quite name, lighter. The air after rain is different. You may not see the difference, but your body knows it. Each drop that has fallen through the sky has gathered particles on its way down, scrubbing dust and pollen from the air. The atmosphere feels rinsed, not just for the city, but for your own lungs. With each inhale, you draw in molecules that have been washed and set free from the haze of the day. And then there are the negative ions. It sounds like a contradiction, negative meaning something good, but in this case, the name speaks of charge, not mood. Raindrops break apart when they hit the ground, splashing into tiny droplets and releasing ions into the air. These negatively charged particles attach themselves to dust, mold spores, even pollutants, pulling them down toward the earth. What's left is air that feels clearer, sharper, almost electrically fresh. Studies suggest that these ions may also interact with serotonin in your brain, subtly lifting your mood. Whether you know the chemistry or not, you can feel the difference in your chest. You pause under a street lamp, exhaling slowly, watching your breath mingle with the mist. Even that visible cloud is a lesson in air. Your body warms the air you take in. As you breathe out, the moisture in your breath condenses in the cooler night. In a few seconds, it disappears into the rain's own haze, becoming part of the weather you are walking through. Humidity plays its part too. Tonight, the air is holding more water than it would on a dry day, and your airways are grateful. The thin layer of mucus lining your trachea and bronchi stays moist, allowing tiny cilia to sweep away debris more efficiently. Each inhale feels smoother, less abrasive, like running your hand over polished wood instead of sandpaper. Your body doesn't have to work as hard to keep itself clean. You take another deep breath, and it smells like petrichor, though softer now than when the rain began. The initial burst of earthy scent has blended with the damp green of foliage, a faint sweetness of flowers that are still open in the dark. This combination is more than pleasant, it is a signal. Your olfactory system, ancient and direct, is wired straight into the limbic system of the brain. Sense can bypass thought, triggering calm or alertness before you've had time to name them. Tonight, the rain scent speaks in the language of safety. The deeper you breathe, the more you notice how your body responds. The diaphragm lowers with each inhale, allowing your lungs to expand fully. Oxygen molecules pass through the thin walls of your alveoli, tiny air sacs, into the bloodstream. Hemoglobin in red blood cells binds to them, turning from a darker shade to a brighter red as they are carried to tissues throughout your body. Every cell that receives this oxygen uses it to release energy from the food you've eaten, energy that becomes warmth, movement, thought. On the exhale, carbon dioxide makes the reverse journey, leaving your blood, passing through the alveoli, and floating out into the night. It is the quiet cycle that sustains you, one breath at a time. But here, in the washed air of the rain, the exchange feels more generous, less hurried. There's more to take in, more to give away. You notice how your breathing has changed since you began walking. It has slowed, lengthened, without any conscious effort. The parasympathetic nervous system, the part of you built for rest and restoration, has stepped forward. Your heart rate dips. Blood vessels open slightly in your skin, letting you release a little more heat. Your body is saying, here is a safe moment. Here is a place to repair. A car passes, its tires parting the thin film of water on the road with a soft hiss. The scent shifts briefly rubber, oil, then clears again as the air reclaims its freshness. You realize how quickly the clean smell returns, as though the rain is actively guarding it. The constant fall of droplets is a kind of filtration, an ongoing renewal. You pass a row of ginkgo trees. Their fan-shaped leaves glisten under the lamps, and when the wind stirs them, they release a faint vegetal scent. You breathe it in, and somewhere in the deep part of your brain, a signal of recognition fires. It's not a memory of this exact tree, but of the kind of world in which green things thrive. That signal, quiet as it is, reassures you. Life is still strong here. The science is simple, but the feeling is not. The oxygen you take in will meet with glucose in your cells, and the chemical bonds will rearrange themselves, releasing energy in the form of a TP-adenosine triphosphate currency your body spends for every action, from walking to thinking, to repairing tissue. You don't need to think about it. Your body has been doing this since before you could name it. Yet the clarity of the air makes you more aware of the process, as though each breath is writing a little more vividly on the inside of your skin. You stop for a moment at the entrance to a small park. The rain has slowed to a fine mist, and the air is utterly still. You take one deep, deliberate breath, holding it for a heartbeat before letting it go. The pause is like the space between notes and music, giving shape to the sound. When the air leaves you, you feel a little lighter. Freshness you sense is not only chemistry, it is context. Rain changes the city's soundscape, quieting some noises and amplifying others. Without the dry rustle of leaves or the harsh grit of wind-blown dust, your hearing and breathing seem more open, more aligned. The absence of irritants, the presence of cool humidity, the gentle scent all work together to make breathing not just a necessity, but a pleasure. You start walking again, your breaths falling into rhythm with your steps. Inhale for 4, exhale for 6. It is not a rule, but a natural pattern that emerges when your body is at ease. Somewhere deep inside, in the primal circuits that decide whether to run, fight, or rest, a signal is being sent. It's safe to slow down. The rain, the ions, the washed air, they've all become part of you now, folded into your bloodstream, diffused into your cells. You carry them with you as you move down the glistening street, feeling as if you've been slightly remade. Last lines, you notice how even the air seems to glow now, and you wonder what reflections might be waiting in the next puddle you find. You stop where the sidewalk dips and notice a coin of water shining like a small moon. In it, the city turns itself over. Towers lean downward, a traffic signal hangs from the earth, and your own silhouette becomes a lake-born stranger. The puddle appears shallow, yet it holds surprising depth, because depth, tonight, is measured in light. You crouch slightly, and the picture stretches. You stand taller, and the image gathers itself. A puddle is a patient mirror with a mind of its own. Unlike polished glass, it quivers. Wind writes cursive along its skin, and raindrops annotate every line with brief crowns. The laws are steady reflection and refraction, yet the results feel like weather dreaming aloud. You watch a single drop carve a crater, fling a ringed splash, and then collapse into a darkened circle that swallows part of a neon kanji. The letter returns, a little changed, the way a thought returns after a blink dot at shallow angles, more. Light bounces then enters. That is why the surface, viewed from almost sideways, seems to harden into metal, carrying a near-perfect image of what stands above it. Tip a degree closer to vertical, and the boundary softens. Light dives into water, then re-emerges from the painted asphalt below, colored by tar and grit. You are really seeing two layers stitched together, sky on street, and street dash through dash water. You change position, and the puddle becomes a movie. Parallax makes far signs glide faster than near ones, and the ripples amplify this quiet cinema. Passing bicycle wheel sends a fan of small waves across the circle. Each crest is a lens, focusing and defocusing the reflections as it goes. You are tempted to touch, and you do. Your fingertip barely breaks the surface, and a ring runs outward, thinning as it spreads. Where two rings meet, they cross without collision, yet their heights add or subtract. That is interference, small agreements and disagreements of water. That produce a changing plaid of brightness. A taxi slows and idles near the curb. Its headlamps pour cones of white that strike the puddle at an angle, and for a moment you catch the faint glimmer of polarization. Glare bright in one tilt of your head, dim in another. Photographers bring filters for this. You bring an eyelid, narrowing and rolling the world until the sheen relaxes. The ground and the sky collaborate. Rain above, mirror below. You think of how your eyes do this work for you. Tiny muscles reshape the lenses inside, a living autofocus. The retina receives the complicated field. The brain untangles its edges strengthened, noise reduced, motion tracked. Vision is an act of interpretation, not mere reception. In water, the interpretation grows playful. Straight poles become kinks. Windows migrate. Another drop falls, heavy enough to raise a proper crown. For an instant, spikes lift like the teeth of a tiny gear. Surface tension holds the gear in place long enough for you to name it, then releases it back to smoothness. The ring that runs away from the crown carries energy outward and dies into the general shiver. You glance from puddle to pavement and back again, sensing how the two versions of the street inform each other. The reflected scene feels calmer because it is inverted and framed. The puddle makes a simple picture from a complex world. It is a museum on the ground, curated by rain and gravity. You step to one side and discover a scene where two reflections meet. The asphalt is slumped along a joint, so the water forms twin planes with a shallow crease between them. A single sign appears doubled, its copies skewed like pages of a book half open. Your brain suggests the story to reconcile them, and for a second, you feel the strangeness of all perception. A world built from best guesses that nevertheless feels certain. A child in a yellow hood hurries past, dragging a bright wake with each step. A puddle records the child's passage and forgets it almost immediately. Forgetting is a kind of mercy. Your own mind practices it too, shelving most of the day so that the important shapes can remain. The rain helps by making the present interesting enough to claim your focus, crowding worry out with detail. The scent near the ground is greener here. Wash off from leaves has joined the street's chemistry, adding a faint sweetness that travels upward with mist. You breathe a little deeper. In your chest, air touches alveoli. Oxygen slips into blood. Circulation carries it on. Every breath adjusts your attention. As respiration slows, the pulse in your ears quiets, and the water's small sounds grow. More articulate, tiny syllables tapped by weather. Across the road, gutter has overflowed, spreading a long, thin mirror that runs beside the curb. Parallel lines of light skim across it like fish. The slightest pitch in the asphalt turns the mirror into a stream. You watch as a floating leaf becomes a boat, rotating gently as it rides the shallow current. Flow at this scale is laminar, smooth, mathematical, until a pebble or a misaligned brick turns it turbulent, and the stream begins to speak. Along one edge of the puddle, a faint skin of oil paints shifting rainbows' thin film colors, born from light waves interfering with themselves. Some wavelengths cancel, others add, and the result slides like silk over the water. You remember sidewalks after long days, how traffic leaves traces, how rain gathers them and makes them visible as iridescent truth. Even small films can reveal the secret work of waves. You look up long enough to reset your calibration. Be actual. Signs are steady. The windows sit square. People move upright in gravity's preferred arrangement. Looking down again is like entering a dream while awake. The world on wet nights is a workout for the vestibular system and a lullaby for the chew. Prefrontal cortex. You step, and your boot raises a fan of beads that flash, then vanish when they meet the larger sheet. Coalescence rules the scene. Many into one into many, depending on which way the gradient points. You think about how minds do this to merge small moments into a sense of day. Let one strong minute scatter into 100 associations. Water teaches the shape of attention. Two friends step around the same pool you study and briefly share your gallery. One points, and you realize the puddle is showing an upstairs kitchen where someone lifts a kettle from the flame. You cannot see the window directly from where you stand. The water gives you the view. The invitation is quiet but complete. Warmth exists nearby, and steam will smell like leaves. You take a last, slow look. In the mirror, a door appears, framed in gentle gold, and then the surface shivers, and the door becomes an amber stripe. You find yourself smiling at the way truth and suggestion trade places without fighting. The rain does not ask you to choose. It gives you both, the world as it is, and the world as it could be if turned upside down and touched by light. You step across, and the picture breaks around your ankle, then recomposes behind you. Your foot leaves a darker print that lightens as water slides back. Ahead, more mirrors wait, though you suspect the next one will not be on the street, but on glass. You lift your eyes and see the cafe itself at last, real, bright, and human. Its windows glow and hum with a low, collective warmth. Somewhere inside, cups will fog the panes and lay new reflections over the old. You angle your umbrella and begin to walk, carrying the puddle's patient lesson with you, that sometimes the clearest way to look up is to look down first. Last lines. You follow the mirrored doorway to its source, where warmth gathers behind. Glass. Soon steam will draw soft constellations on the window, and the rain will keep singing outside. You step toward the cafe's glow, ready to learn what comfort feels like in a cup. You step through the door, and the storm gentles into a hush that lives on the other side of glass. The cafe air is warmer by a few degrees, and the change slips across your skin like a wool blanket laid over your shoulders. Sound reshapes itself. Rain turns from bright consonants into a soft, continuous vowel. You stand for a breath and feel heat move from room to blood. A barista lifts a kettle. You hear the fine thread of steam sing. The metal, hot from the coil, gives its energy too. Water climbing toward a boil. In window light, the plume looks alive, a pale ribbon writing cursive in the air. Thermal motion is the handwriting. Molecules vibrating, faster until some escape as vapor. You choose a corner seat near the glass. The window is a boundary, a thin mineral lake holding back the weather. Pressed between indoor warmth and outdoor chill, it becomes a lesson in gradients. Heat wanders from more to less, seeking balance the way a crowded room spills into a quiet hallway. Through conduction, the inner surface loses a little warmth to the night and gains it again from the room. Your fingers read this exchange as faint coolness. The cup arrives in the barista's quick hands. You hold it, and the handle teaches you about materials. Ceramic gives heat slowly. Metal would have shouted. In your palm, conduction draws energy into skin, then to capillaries, then into blood that ferries warmth away like a small river. This convoy is perfusion heat carried by flow. You feel the message arrive in your forearms. We are warmed from the center out. When you raise the cup, a ghost of tea scents the air leaf and honey, something like bark after rain. Evaporation cools the surface by stealing energetic molecules. But convection answers. Warm air lifts, cooler air slides in to replace it, and the loop renews. You can't see the circulation, but the steam's climb sketches it. You sip. The liquid spreads across your tongue, then down your throat in a path that glows. Thermoreceptors report the change, and the brain files it under safe, soothing good. A swallow is a practiced choreography. Soft palate lifts, epiglottis tilts. A wave of muscular contraction rolls downward to deliver comfort. The T becomes not only warmth, but rhythm, teaching the body an easier tempo. You blow across the surface and watch capillary waves hurry from your breath to the porcelain edge. By moving air, you carry away the fastest molecules, steepening the gradient and hastening the next sip. On the inside, a constellation of fog appears where your breath lands, microdroplets born when moist exhale meets a colder surface. Slowly, it thins, the water returning to the room like thoughts dissolving back into quiet. Outside, umbrellas tilt and close. Drops strike the pane and slide as beads. The cafe is a machine for comfort. Warm-toned lights ask the pupils to rest. Textured wood and fabric swallow echoes so voices don't ricochet. The espresso machine ticks as metal cools. People lean toward one another and away from the door, a choreography of heat-seeking. You wrap both hands around the mug and trace the route heat takes. Conduction from clay to skin, convection from liquid to air, radiation from the surface to your cheeks, like sunlight through autumn leaves. Even in a dark room, infrared would paint your face with the cup's brightness. You are, in this moment, a receiver tuned to comfort spectrum. A bell rings as the door opens, and a stripe of cold rides in on someone's coat. The room responds. Warm air near the ceiling slides down the window. Heaters under the counter wake. People lift shoulders, then lower them as equilibrium returns. Stability is not stillness. It is the art of tiny corrections. Your own body copies the room, adjusting breath and posture until ease redraws itself. The counter, water swirls in a glass siphon, rising and falling like a miniature weather system. Heat at the base pushes liquid upward. When the flame is removed, cooling draws the water back through grounds in a brown cascade. It is convection as theater and aroma as forecast. You place your palm against the window. It is cooler than the room, but warmer than the night. A thin boundary layer of air clings to the glass. Your hand disturbs the layer and leaves a print that blooms, then fades. You feel connected to the street, as if your warmth were a small lantern shining into the rain dot between sips. The taste changes with temperature. Hot tea is aroma first. As it cools, sweetness steps forward, then a darker note like toast. Temperature shifts receptor sensitivity and solubility. Some molecules dance earlier, some later. Comfort is dynamic, never a single point, always a moving island you follow by feel. Your shoulders unclench. The jaw slackens, the tongue rests, and breathing now finds the long arc you use when falling asleep. The vagus nerve takes a larger role. Heart rate variability gains gentle complexity. You don't count, yet your body tallies the signs. Safety, warmth, fullness, quiet. Steam ghosts the rim, and you think of clouds, formed when moist air cools and vapor condenses on microscopic seeds. Inside your cup, the microclimate is faster, but kin by principle. The cup is a pocket sky. The room is a cove. You are a shoreline being carved into ease. A plate arrives with a small biscuit warm from the oven. Starch holds water. Water holds heat. You break it and steam unfurls like a flag. The smell of mallard browning joins the tea's perfume. You taste, and the crumb becomes fuel. In the gut, Enzymes take the bread apart into sugars. The liver will file some as glycogen. On the window, droplets race, verging and letting go. Some win by gathering others. Some trail off as thin lines that take longer to fall. Watching them, you feel your thoughts behave the same way, coalescing, separating. Flowing to the path of least resistance, you rest your forehead against the painless cool of glass. The brain, hearing the rain and feeling the heat, leans toward theta, the drowsy band between waking analysis and sleep's wide river. Memory sorts most easily here, loose and associative. When you open your eyes, the street has softened. The reflections that lured you here are still performing, but they seem to belong to this room, a theater where outside and inside exchange gifts across a transparent stage. You think of bodies beyond the glass, each wrapped in their own weather. You drink the final swallow. It is cooler now, round with sweetness. The mug carries residual warmth into your skin, the way afternoon sun lingers after clouds return. Heat content is finite, yes, but comfort transfers into memory. Sensation stored as story. You rise, and the chair releases the shape of you with a soft sigh. The door waits. The bell will ring again. Rain is still riding on the street. You lift your umbrella and your coat, not to escape the elements, but to join them differently warmed, unhurried. You step toward the threshold, carrying the cafe's temperature like a quiet lamp in your chest. Last lines, you hold the cup's warmth in your memory, the way steam holds a shape before it fades. Outside, the rain will keep rearranging light, and your thoughts will follow. What will this hour become when the mind begins to file its stories? The cafe door closes behind you with a muted chime, and the rain greets you again like an old friend waiting patiently outside. You lift your umbrella and step back into the rhythm you left moments ago. The city's soundscape wraps around you water. Sliding down awnings, the hiss of tires, the occasional deep splash from a passing bus. And somewhere in that mixture, an older, quieter soundtrack rises. It begins not here, but years ago. You remember the small hand that held an umbrella handle too thick for its grip. The canopy tilted, always threatening to catch the wind, and your arm ached from keeping it steady. Your shoes were smaller, closer to the water's edge. Puddles were oceans, then worlds to be stepped into rather than over. The smell of rain seemed bigger too, though your vocabulary for it was smaller. You called it fresh or wet, not knowing the word petrichor, not knowing about oils from plants and geosmin from soil, or how they bloom into the air when rain comes. Your brain still holds that sensory package, sealed and waiting. The hippocampus, deep in the temporal lobe, acts as a kind of archivist, taking in the smell of wet leaves, the sound of raindrops on canvas, the way damp jeans clung to your legs. It cross-references these with time and place, linking them to the weather, the street, and the smaller self who walked there. This is episodic memory, your mind's way of making experiences retrievable stories. Rain is especially good at feeding this system because it engages so many senses at once. The smell of wet air travels through the olfactory bulb, which has a direct line to the limbic system, your brain's emotional hub. The sound of rain, especially when it's rhythmic and soft, can quiet the amygdala's alarms, making space for recall. And the cool humidity itself can bring you into your body, sharpening awareness in a way that makes impressions stick. You walk past a row of shop fronts, each glass pane catching both the present street and fragments of memory. For a moment, the reflection shows not your coat, but a childhood jacket bright yellow, too short at the wrists. You remember how the sleeves soaked darker near the cuffs, and how the smell of wet fabric stayed with you long after you got home. That smell, too, is a trigger. Water vapor lifts molecules into the air, and they find their way to scent receptors high in your nasal cavity. receptors designed to recognize even a single molecule among thousands. Sometimes memory works in reverse. A smell or sound can pull an old scene forward without asking permission. You could be walking to buy tea, and suddenly you're back on a playground, hearing rain on the metal roof of the slide shelter. The hippocampus plays the tape, but the prefrontal cortex reminds you where you are now. Two realities share a moment without colliding. You pass a narrow alley and notice the scent shift damp stone, a trace of mildew, and the faint sweetness of wet cardboard. The brain treats such unique mixtures as signatures, each tied to a place. And time. These are stored as multisensory engrams, networks of neurons that fire together when the pattern repeats. This is why the rain's perfume can open a door to years ago. Even if you haven't thought of that day in decades, you step over a shallow puddle and recall, deliberately stepping into one when you were young, just to watch the water leap. That splash is its own sensory chord. The cold shock to your skin, the sound of droplets hitting the cuff of your jeans, the widening circles that faded before you could step again. Memory doesn't store the splash as a static image. It keeps the sequence, the motion, the timing, the before and after. This is procedural memory blending into episodic, the how nested inside the when. Outside a bookstore, the awning drips steadily into a barrel set to collect the runoff. The sound is steady enough to merge with the rain's main rhythm, yet distinct enough to stand out if you focus. You remember a tin bucket in your grandmother's yard, how its ring shifted depending on how full it was. Your younger self once asked why the sound changed, and someone explained that the depth of water changes the pitch, much like a drum. You didn't fully understand then, but the explanation stuck like a bookmark in your mind, ready to be reread now with adult understanding. You think about how memories are strengthened. Neuroscientists call it consolidation, the process by which a fresh experience moves from short-term storage to the long-term vault. Sleep is a big part of it, but so is emotion. Rain can amplify feeling, whether it's calm, melancholy, or wonder. Those emotions, in turn, signal the brain that the moment is worth keeping. The amygdala adds a highlight to the hippocampuses filing system. The rain's ability to make time feel layered is another reason it shapes memory so well. You are not just here in this moment. You are also there in past moments like it. The sound of drops on your umbrella could be today's weather or the same sound decades ago. Your brain handles both without confusion, creating a braid of times that feel continuous. This is temporal binding, the linking of events across years through shared cues dotted a crosswalk. You pause. The red signal glows in a puddle at your feet, rippling as drops strike. You remember holding your mother's hand at another crosswalk, your small fingers wrapped around hers, waiting for the light to change. The memory is so vivid, you can almost feel her thumb tracing circles on your knuckles. Touch is a strong mnemonic. It leaves a deeper trace when paired with emotion. You cross, and the wet pavement smells faintly metallic, a scent that often follows heavy rain in cities. Part of it is the concrete's own minerals, part is iron, from dust and tiny bits of metal washed from the streets. Even this has a memory link. The smell of tools in a garage, the cold air of winter mornings before school. Rain doesn't just bring back the weather of the past. It connects to everything that weather once touched. A bus passes, and its wake sends a fine spray into the air. Droplets cling to your coat sleeve. Each one catches a pinpoint of light from the street lamps, turning your arm into a constellation. Light scattering off the curved surface of each droplet is what makes them sparkle, refraction and reflection working together. You remember making the same discovery as a child, watching raindrops on a window flare briefly when a car passed. Outside. Even then, you felt there was magic in how light and water could speak to each other. You approach a park, its gate glistening under a lamp. Inside, the air is quieter, the rain softer as it falls through the branches. Here, the smell is earthier, and it pulls up a memory of camping wet pine needles underfoot, the crackle of a tarp in wind, the hiss of rain on canvas. Episodic memory works best when the cues are rich, and here they are: scent, sound, texture, and temperature all a line dot. As you walk beneath a tree, a larger drop falls from a branch and hits your hand. The skin tingles where the cooler water meets your warmth. Touch receptors in your skin send signals through nerves to the somatosensory cortex, where the brain interprets not just temperature and pressure, but also context. This was not just. A drop it was a leaf's gift, delayed and singular. A moment like this might not seem important now, but years from now, it might return unbidden, complete with the muted green smell and the exact weight of the umbrella in your hand. The park. Path leads you to a small bridge over a stream swollen by the rain. You lean against the rail, watching the water carry leaves downstream. The scene stirs a memory of a childhood game dropping twigs into a gutter current and racing them to the drain. That game lives in your brain's episodic memory, not as a single frozen moment, but as a sensory loop. The sound of water rushing, the sight of your twig spinning, the feeling of running alongside it. Standing here now, you realize that you are both inside a memory and making one. The present is already shaping itself into the past, each detail quietly stamped into neural pathways by repetition and emotion. The rain smell, the hum of the city beyond the park, the slight ache in your hand from holding the umbrella, all of it is becoming a story your mind will be able to retrieve years from now. And just as you think this, the air changes slightly. The rain lightens, as if it is catching its breath. You look toward the path and wonder what the city will feel like when it's not falling from the sky, when water rests still enough to hold perfect reflections again. Last lines, you take one. Last deep breath, knowing this air will live somewhere in you long after tonight. And as you step toward the brighter street, you begin to imagine the city under a softer, quieter rain, one that waits in pools for your next glance. You step out of the park and back onto the boulevard, where rain writes its slanted script across the asphalt. The hour has thinned the city to essentials: a cyclist under a hood, a taxi's low lanterns, a convenience store bright as a ship. At harbor, you listen, and the night answers and replies. Street lamps stand at even intervals, each a sun with its gravity of moths. Golden circles overlap like gentle tides. In the damp air, halos bloom from droplets that bend light into soft rings. A moth's orbit, drawn by warmth and brightness. Your eyes follow their figure eights until the patterns slow your thoughts to calm arithmetic. Traffic is sparse. Now and then a car combs the road, tires lifting skeins of water that lay back down. As a hiss, the whisper irons the street. Sound slides down your spine and loosens muscles that argued with the day. The parasympathetic system rises. Heart rate eases, digestion resumes. Shoulders settle by unconsidered millimeters. A clock above a shuttered shop turns a luminous minute. Midnight is a change in the city's metabolism. Cortisol dwindles. Melatonin rises. The suprachiasmatic nucleus keeps the schedule, sinking to the absence of blue light. Pupils widen. You are drifting by design, carried by a rhythm older than buildings. You walk through air that smells rinsed and metallic sweet, the aftertaste of storm. Each inhale recruits more of the diaphragm's bellows. Each exhale lengthens, heating the yow. Vagus nerves counsel. Sleep pressure has been building adenosine, stacking quiet weights on wakefulness. With every step, the weights grow heavier. You are a pendulum nearing the quiet center of its swing. A cat crosses the alley with the care of a thought on tiptoe. An apartment window glows and then dims as a kettle lifts from flame. Behind other panes, ultradian cycles carry sleepers through. NREM slow waves knitting synapses and into REM, where eyes flicker and the brain rehearses and repairs. The city seems to breathe in phases you can almost hear. A breeze pushes rain at a slant that fits your stride. Droplets stipple your umbrella like soft drum roll. Under its dome, acoustics grow intimate, turning the boulevard into a private hallway. You match your cadence to the downpour's brushed tempo. 4 steps to an inhale, 6 to an exhale. In this ratio, something settles. The mind, relieved of choices, lets weather lead. You pass the convenience store. Doors sigh. Warm air spills sugared scent citrus bread into the street. Inside, the cashier watches a tiny TV. You move on, preferring the crowds made of rain, the applause made of gutters dot at an intersection. Signals cycle for almost no one red to green to yellow. Puddles keep the light's promises, trading colors in their low negotiations. You wait, though you could cross. When the lamp invites you, you walk, and the city nods as if it had asked this unhurried answer all along. Your muscles remember doors, and your path remembers home. Familiar storefronts pass like chapters already read. The florist asleep under a corrugated lid, the ramen place stacked in silence, the barber's pole turned off, but still imagining its red spiral. Recognition takes the shift, sparing attention so it can drift finer textures, the way drops gather at awning corners, the way steam ghosts from street grates and vanishes at shoulder height. Overhead, cloud thins to a watercolor moon. Its light silver plants the edges of railings and leaves a thin signature on puddles. You think of circadian entrainment, how even this muted lunar hint can whisper to peripheral clocks, synchronizing chemistry for the coming quiet hours. Your eyelids practice the heavier blink that precedes sleep's first door. You stop on a small bridge across the railway cut. Far below, a train writes a low line through the staff of the night, headlights stitching twin needles into the rain. The rumble passes through concrete into bone, the way a lullaby's lowest note travels straight to the chest. Trains keep time for cities. Tonight, this one keeps time for you, marking a bar line between day and rest. Beyond the bridge, streets. Narrow and turn residential. Balconies gather bicycles and small potted forests. Someone has left an umbrella opened upside down to dry, a dark flower cupping rain with nowhere urgent to be. In courtyards, sensors notice you and bring lamps to life with modest brightness, and let them fade as you pass. The world agrees to be gentle dot. You realize your shoulders have found their natural height. The jaw is loose. The tongue rests behind teeth. The brow is smoothed by weather's patient hand. Even thoughts suit dimness, fewer edges, more curves, sentences that end in ellipses. You occupy the liminal room between waking and sleep, where meaning softens but does not yet dissolve. Ahead your street appears, familiar as the inside of a pocket. The entrance light carves a quiet triangle on wet stone. You feel the key in your palm before you see the door, metal cooled by rain, small and sure. Behind the door is a window, and behind the window is the sound you have been walking toward without naming. Rain translated into a bedroom's soft grammar. You pause one pace from shelter to memorize the boulevard's last arrangement. Gold. Pools under lamps. Moths trace their patient letters. A final taxi sketches a white thread and is gone. You let one more breath fill and empty, and in that breath, the city seems to lean closer, as if to escort you the last few meters. Then you step forward. The threshold is a hinge between two kinds of weather: outside rain on stone, inside rain on glass. You close the door, and the night recedes by a velvet fraction. Somewhere a clock ticks like a distant drop. The rooms wait with their quiet machinery. Blankets as insulators, pillows as soft supports, darkness as signal. You are already halfway to sleep. The route is simple now. A lamp clicked off, a curtain drawn, a window open just enough for the rain to keep its whispering appointment. In the dark, your breath will take the lead, and the city will hum outside like a companion in the next. Room. The body finds home not by address, but by rhythm learned from water falling. Last lines, you stand in the hush and hear the rain become softer than thought. When you lie down, its rhythm will follow you inward, and the night will turn. That sound into a dream. You lie in the half-light of your room, the curtains drawn but not sealed. A faint glow seeps in from the street lamps outside, softened by the film of rain still on the glass. The sound beyond the window is gentler now, less the steady percussion. Of earlier hours, more a hush, as if the storm has learned to whisper. It moves through the air like breath, slow and measured. The perfect pace for the night's closing act. Your muscles, warm from the walk home, begin to uncoil. Shoulders drop toward the mattress. Fingers relax, no longer curled around an umbrella, handle, or the warm weight of a mug. Even your jaw eases, each tiny muscle in your face letting go of its invisible grip. The change is gradual, but the body notices. Sensors in muscle fibers register the shift, and nerves carry the message too. The brain. Tension is dissolving. It is safe to rest. Breathing deepens without conscious effort. The diaphragm lowers with each inhale, letting the lungs expand fully. Cool, damp air touched with the faint trace of wet stone and street trees slips in, oxygen threading into. Blood. Each exhale carries away a little more carbon dioxide and a little more of the day's weight. With every breath, the parasympathetic nervous system strengthens its hold, slowing the heart, lowering blood pressure, guiding you toward stillness. Your mind begins to soften at the edges. Thoughts are still there, but they no longer stand in lines. Instead, they drift like paper boats set loose in a stream, touching each other briefly before floating apart. The frontal cortex, keeper of plans and lists, starts to dim its activity, allowing older, more dreamlike regions of the brain to speak. The balance tilts toward alpha waves, a pre-sleep rhythm that hums between wakefulness and dreaming. Outside, the rain works its quiet alchemy on the city. It gathers in gutters, slips along rooftops, and drops from branches in slow, measured beats. Each sound is a signal, a thread linking you to the world beyond the room, yet asking nothing of you. Rain is patient. It will keep falling whether your eyes are open or closed. You turn onto your side, your body choosing the position it has learned over years of sleep. A mattress cradles your weight, and pressure sensors in your skin adjust circulation accordingly. This is part of sleep preparation to an orchestration of comfort, temperature, and support. The brainstem oversees it without you ever asking. As your eyelids grow heavier, you enter the lightest stage of sleep, NREM Stage 1. Muscles twitch. A final protest from the systems that have worked all day. Your mind may flash brief images, faces, colors, fragments of streets you walked earlier. These are hypnagogic images, the brain's bridge between reality and dream. The hippocampus, still holding today's memories, begins to sort and file them for long-term storage. The rain, constant but varied, acts as a natural mask for sharper noises. It's a form of pink noise, with more energy in the lower frequencies than white noise, mimicking the auditory patterns your brain finds most soothing. This steadiness reduces the likelihood of waking, helping you move more smoothly toward deeper stages. Stage 2 arrives. Your heart rate slows further. Body temperature drops by a fraction as blood vessels in your hands and feet widen to release heat. In the brain, bursts of electrical activity called sleep spindles dance across the cortex. These spindles help consolidate memories, locking in the sound of tonight's rain, the scent of the cafe, the mirrored puddles you stepped over. Even as consciousness slips away, the mind is curating the gallery of your life. Outside the city, has gone fully to sleep. The streets are empty, except for the occasional slow glide of a night bus. Moths have left the street lamps. The puddles are still, except where the rain dimples them. It is a different Tokyo, now not the restless, neon-painted one of the evening, but a softer version, draped in gray silk dot. Your body transitions into slow-wave sleep, the deepest phase of NREM. Here, delta waves dominate, and your brain's metabolic activity drops to its lowest level. This is repair time. Growth hormone is released, cells mend themselves, and the immune system strengthens. The work is invisible to you, yet without it, waking life would falter. The rain seems to match your rhythm now, each drop a slow metronome for the body's repairs. After some time, the cycle turns. Your brain activity quickens, though your muscles remain still, held in temporary paralysis by the pons to prevent you from acting out dreams. You have entered REM sleep. Here, the brain becomes a theater, drawing on stored memories, emotions, and imagination to weave its nightly stories. And tonight, the rain follows you in. You find yourself in a dream city where every street is slick and shining. The reflections, impossibly clear. Neon signs ripple without distortion. You walk without getting wet, though rain falls all around you in silver threads. People from different chapters of your life appear friends from childhood, strangers you passed hours ago, perhaps even versions of yourself at other ages. The hippocampus stitches these characters into the narrative, while the amygdala colors their roles with emotion. In the dream, you come to a cafe that is both the one you visited tonight and one you've never seen before. Steam curls from cups without cooling. Outside its windows, the puddles are mirrors so deep they seem like portals. You lean over one and see not your reflection, but a sky full of rain, as though you are standing on the other side of gravity. Your dream self does not question this. In REM sleep, logic loosens its grip, allowing metaphor to feel like truth. Here, rain can fall upward, streets can fold into rivers, and memories can bend into places you have never been. Behind the scenes, REM is helping regulate your emotions, rehearsing possible futures, and reinforcing learning from the day. The scene changes. You are on a bridge at midnight, but it is not the one from earlier. Below you flows not a river, but a ribbon of light, carrying tiny glowing droplets downstream. They fall silently into a vast pool that looks like the surface of your bedroom. Window in the rain. And then, without knowing how, you are on the other side of the glass, back in your bed, hearing the real rain outside. This is the quiet loop of the night. The sound in the room becoming a sound in the dream folding back into the sound in the room. Even as the cycles repeat in REM to REM and back again, the rain threads through them, a constant that ties together the world inside and outside your mind. Hours pass without your noticing. The rain eases toward morning. Somewhere in the brain, the suprachiasmatic nucleus begins preparing for daylight, sensing the faint shift in the light, filtering through the curtains. Cortisol levels will begin to rise soon, gently pulling you toward waking. But for now, the night still holds you, the rain still speaks in its soft, endless language, and the dreams still have one or two more scenes to play. You turn slightly. In your sleep, the blanket a soft weight against your shoulder. The rain's voice is quieter now, but it remains, just enough to carry you through the last stages of rest. Inside, the brain is completing its final tasks, organizing memories, clearing waste products through the glymphatic system, and preparing you to meet the next day with clarity. In this final stretch, you dream again, not of streets or cafes this time, but of the rain itself. You are simply standing in it, feeling each drop touch your skin without wetting you, each one a point of light. It is both the real rain outside and the imagined rain within, merged into one. Last lines, you drift deeper into that place where sound and memory are the same thing. And somewhere between the window and your mind, the rain continues falling both in the city and in your dream. And now, as our story gently fades, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for spending this moment with me. Your presence here means the world, and your support helps me create even more peaceful journeys. Just for you. If this helped you rest, please consider liking, subscribing, or simply coming back tomorrow night. Until then, stay cozy, stay kind, and may your dreams tonight be soft, serene, and full of wonder. Good night, my friend. With warmth, David.